October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. In this episode, we will get up close and personal as Lindsay dives into this experience firsthand. We hope that this episode may bring a sense of peace to those out there that have or know someone who has experienced this type of loss. We're your host, Ian Sharpenshay.
And I'm Lindsay Bork.
And this is the Marking Milestones podcast.
So October is a Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. So that's what we're going to dive into today. And that's something for my family hits our hearts really hard and is very personal. So we're going to talk about that journey that my family had with that. It's going to be really hard to talk about, but that's okay because it needs to be talked about. And I have a box of tissue right here for me in case I need it. And I just want people to know that I want it to be talked about because some people may be going through something inside if they've lost an infant or a child or a pregnancy loss, that they just feel like they're alone, and you're not, because they have a lot of people that are going through this.
Right. I think it's a very important topic that rarely gets discussed. Mm-hmm. Nobody really talks about that.
It's way more common than people even think,
it really is.
You know?
And nobody really talks about it and says, like, are y'all okay? Or help
Right.
people out. And I think it's really powerful that you're going to talk about your experience with it, because that's really personal, and, so I'm excited to jump into it.
Yeah. The first thing I want to say to everybody is, if you've ever experienced anything like that before, just to know that it's okay to not be okay. Like, you feel like just torn up inside, and I want you to know, like, it's okay to not be okay. You just don't want to stay stuck in that rut forever. So you got to kind of try to get yourself out of there. But so I just want, moms to know that that's okay.
Right. So I wanted to start it off by asking you, like, when you were younger, like whenever you were a teenager, growing up, and then even going into your marriage, when it comes to having kids and all that, wonderful things that you dreamed of whenever you were younger, what were your thoughts, dreams, and plans going in?
I mean, ever since I was a little girl, I would say every little girl dreams about your wedding day and
right.
having a family. And I guess I always really thought that I would be kind of young getting married and start a family. I always pictured myself as having like a ton of children, because I've always gravitated towards children. But things don't always happen exactly the way that you plan them to happen. We know that. It's
right.
God's will, not ours. And He's pumped the brakes on that for a second. And I didn't meet my husband until we were both 29. When we met, and then we got married. Yes, we were both 29 when we met, and we got married whenever we were 30. So we waited a year to get married. And then, so I guess just growing up, I would have thought something differently than what actually happened.
Right.
But it's God's way, not ours. So like you can't have your life completely panned out just like anything, you know. So.
And like you said earlier, whenever you were younger, you always gravitated toward children, and you wanted a big family. And like, whenever I was younger and you were still living in the house and everything, I could see that, even young, that you had like a motherly soul. Like, if I scraped my knee or whatever and mom wasn't there, it was, you were gonna be there.
Right. And I mean, the age difference in us was so big.
Yeah,
that
it really was.
I kind of was more of a motherly figure because we're 15 years difference for people that don't know listening. So.
A big jump in years,
Yeah.
and you'd always have that motherly soul that I could go to if
Thank
mom
you.
wasn't there.
Thank you.
So, after marriage and all that, where and when did you start to see those original plans that you wanted, start not to pan out?
I mean, probably right away, because me and Tyler didn't meet till way later in life than I would have thought I would have met my soulmate, you know.
Right.
But just to kind of jump into like our experience with everything, we got married. I was still in school at the time whenever we got married, and we got pregnant pretty fast. And we were so excited, you know, and everything, just like everybody would be, you know, this miracle, you know, we can't wait to start a family kind of thing. And we went to the doctor, and we lost that pregnancy at about 6 weeks. And it was devastating, like, devastating. I mean, we were both very upset, didn't even know really what to feel, I guess, if that even makes sense. It's like, you don't even know how to feel at first about the whole thing. It's like
in shock, almost.
Yes. But you know, things happen for a reason, and it's like hard to say because it's like a child. But it's like God knew that that's not the right time for us. I was still in school and stuff. It would have been extremely hard for us. And I don't know. I mean, it was very devastating, but the only way that me and Tyler were able to get through it with each other was to bring God into it. Because if we didn't ask him for help and to be with us, I mean, I don't even know if we would still be married. Like,
right.
I mean, you go through every emotion. Like, I blamed myself because I'm the woman and I'm supposed to be able to carry the baby, and all these things go through your mind. And only Christ, I mean, he's the only thing that got us through.
Right.
You know?
We're jumping into that, like, with God and everything. What emotions did you feel finding out about the pregnancy loss, and how did your, you know, situation and relationship with God shift and move? And
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the first initial thing is like just sadness. Then you kind of start going through where you kind of mad. Like, I went through like being upset with God, like, you know, why is this happening to us? And, you know, why aren't we getting the blessings that we deserve, and like mad at him? But I had to get myself out of that, and I had to look at myself and say, okay, Lindsay, you know, it's just not your time right now. Like, you and Tyler need to come together as a married couple and pray together. And it really brought, in a way, it brought me and Tyler closer together for our marriage, because we were able to bring God into it together and able to pray about it together. I don't know. So it almost like brought us closer together instead of pulling us apart, because that can also happen.
Right.
You know?
So, like, the way you're describing it reminds me a lot of the book of Job in the Bible. So Job was like one of the best servants that God ever had. And he always did right by God, tried his best to do right by God. And at the time, God has his sons of God. I forget exactly what the term is that they use in the Bible. But one of the angels comes to God and says, well, you know that the only reason why he's following you and doing all these good things is so that he can, you know, get your blessings. He's not following you because he actually wants to follow you. If there was bad things that would happen to him, then you would see his true colors. So God allows bad things to happen to Job, where he loses everything.
Right.
He loses his family, he loses his crops, he loses his town, he loses everything. And even in the midst of all that loss, at the beginning, he still worships and loves God. Over time, just as you did, knowing that you had that loss, he starts to get angry and questioning why. You know, I've done everything that you wanted me to do. Why aren't these blessings happening? Like, why am I losing things in my life? And God comes to him and says, I'm bigger than all of this. You can't see the bigger picture. Could you be God for a day? He asked Job. And Job's like, of course not. I couldn't do your job.
Right.
And, you know, he says, I know every little detail that goes into this whole story on this world. You will go through loss, and I need to know that you're still going to follow me even through the hardest hardships that you're going to go through.
Right.
The turmoil, the pain, are you still going to be there following me and being a servant?
Mm-hmm.
And you remind me a lot of that story because, I mean, knowing you since forever, you've always been that person in the family that has been strong with God and always wanted to go to church and always wanted to do, you know, right by God. Mm-hmm. And to see that you've gone through pain and turmoil and then still loved Him, questioned and got mad, but you've gotten through that, and you've almost had like that conversation like Job had with God, like, I get it. Mm-hmm. You know, that's where you're at now.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I feel like he's always known that I still did love him. I never stopped loving him or anything like that. I just was mad in the moment, and I'm telling you how this is what I'm feeling right now, Lord.
Yeah.
And he had to come to me in my heart and, you know, my child, it's going to be okay, you know. It's almost like I had like this voice in my head saying, your time is coming, child. Like it was just not our season yet.
Right.
You know? And so about a year and a half later, we finally got pregnant. We have beautiful Riker. He's our rainbow baby, and we are so blessed to have him. I mean, beautiful boy, healthy, everything that we could ever imagine. He has the most wonderful personality that you could ever ask for. But of course, we wanted to have more children.
Yeah.
So started trying again after we had Riker. Probably when Riker, I want to say it was for his first birthday. So like right before he turned 1, we found out we were pregnant again. So excited, you know, all this. Then again, it was about 7 weeks, I guess. Well, actually this time when we went to the doctor, we heard a heartbeat and everything. Numbers looked great. Heartbeats not as strong as they kind of would have wanted it to be, but it had a heartbeat. Oh, we were so, you know, positive about it and all this. They wanted to check again in about 2 weeks from there, I want to say it was. And when we went back, no heartbeat. We had lost the baby. So, another loss. And again, we were devastated. Even though we have this precious, you know, baby at home, we still want, you know, we want him to have siblings and stuff, and we wanted more children. So it's like, it was still very devastating. This is another child that would be going to heaven. And again, the same kind of thing, like, get upset about it. I got angry about it. It's like, this is happening again.
Right.
You know, like, what is going on? Like, why is this happening to us again? You see all these people around you where, like, everything seems to be like this perfect little thing. Like, oh, they are getting pregnant and having babies and all this stuff. And not that you want to feel this way, but I, like, in a way felt, like, kind of mad and, like, in a way, like, jealous of that situation. Like, I'm like, you know, they're getting all these blessings and we're not. Like, why is somebody else getting this and we're not getting this? Like, what did we do wrong? Like, did we do something wrong to deserve this? Like, you know, all of that goes through your mind. And for that pregnancy, I had to keep going back, actually for both, but for this one, it just sticks out in my mind. I had to keep going back to do blood work to see if the numbers had went down all the way, because I didn't have surgery just to remove anything. So I'd have to keep going back to check my blood until it would read 0. So I remember being in the waiting room, sitting in there, and it's on a day where it's all pregnant women. Like, because the doctors take, on certain days, it's like their pregnancy patients. And I remember sitting in there, and I'm just looking around like all these mommies, and they happy, and they all pregnant, and I'm in here. Sorry. I'm in here, like, coming to check to see if the pregnancy has dissolved all the way. Like, if it's, you know, sorry.
That's good. You're doing great.
And like I wanted to feel happy for them. I don't want to feel like that, you know? I don't want to feel like, you know, why that's not me. I wanted to be happy for anybody around me that was experiencing the miracle that God wanted to give them. So right there, in the waiting room, I just started kind of talking to God, to myself, in my mind. And I was like, Lord, please help me, because I don't want to feel this way. Like, I need you to help me, because I want to be happy for anybody else that's experiencing this beautiful thing. Like, I know what it feels like. I have one already.
Right.
And there may be somebody in here that doesn't have that yet, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just asked him, I was like, please. And for some reason, well, because of God, it came into my mind. And it was just like the Bible verse. Like I had to look it up, but it just came up in my mind. It was like Jeremiah 29:11, Jeremiah 29:11. So on my phone in there, I'm like, I'm gonna have to look it up because I'm not sure what verse it is. And so I did, and it was, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And
wow.
Yeah, and I just, like, I don't know, it just gave me a sense of peace over me for a second, and I was like, you know what, like, God will never harm us. Like, he will never do anything to hurt me.
Right.
And I don't know, I just started to feel better about it. Like, right there in that chair, it was crazy.
Well, I think in that moment, all that pain and turmoil, and you were just fuming right there, like, with all these different emotions. And he sent you like a reminder, like, I'm always gonna be here.
Right.
I'm not trying to hurt you.
Right.
Your time is gonna come, but right now, this is your story.
This is what you're going through. This is your season right now.
Right.
You know? And do we know the purpose for things? Probably not. Does it come to us like, wait, this might have been the reason why God had this happen?
And it might not come till like way later.
Exactly.
You know, you're not gonna know right away, but
exactly. But it's like, even when we feel like the sky's falling down on us, I feel like we just need to look up. Because he's saying, look up, child. Like, I'm gonna catch you. I'm not gonna just let you fall, you know? And around the same time, for this for third pregnancy, second miscarriage, someone said something that I heard, and it has stuck with me ever since, and I just think that it is so true and so powerful. And they said, Jesus walks on the very waves that we think will drown us. And that just, to me, it just gives me the chills. Like, that's just so powerful and so true, because he's never gonna let us drown if we just keep our eyes on him.
Right.
You know? I don't know. It's just something that was so... I just always remembered it. Like, ever since I heard it. And I heard it at a time that I needed it, because I was going through something so deep, you know?
Right.
So
I wanted to ask you too, like, how often, after the first one, after Riker, and then after the second one, how often do you go through the motions of grief or sadness during the time it happened, and then even now? Because, like, do you ever just completely get over it, you know?
No.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, throughout, even to now, what are you feeling, and what's pulled you out of, like, a really dark place that you could have gone to if you would have allowed yourself to?
Right. So, we actually have had 3 miscarriages and then Riker. So I've had 4 pregnancies, 3 misses. And I'll tell you right now, and for anybody that's listening that's been through this, it's okay, because you're not alone. There is still times today that I think about all those babies that are in heaven, and it's hard. There's times where, like, certain things may make you think about it again. And listen, there's times where I'm perfectly fine.
Right.
But, like, something might happen or something might remind me, and it's a different kind of hurt now. Because I feel like God has been so present with us, because we've allowed him to be, that it's a different kind of hurt. Like, I can sit there and say, you know, our three little babies in heaven are watching over us.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how to explain it. It's a different kind of hurt. Like, I had a mom, somebody that's actually in our family, and I won't say names, but she, like, contacted me because she knew what we've been through, and she was going through the same thing, and she did not know how to cope, and she was like, I just don't understand how, like, you could be so faithful. Like, she's like, I'm trying so hard, and I said, give yourself time.
Right.
Give yourself time. It's okay to not be okay, but you need to ask Jesus to help you. Like, you need to ask him to be with you.
Yeah.
And listen, I was, each day, like, I would check on her, and I would send her, like, verses or something just to kind of help her out, and she was like, thank you so much, because I just don't know how you do it. It's really hard. It's not an easy thing.
Do you ever think that God allowed this to happen so that you may spread your message like you're doing currently and help other women around you?
I think so, because he had encouraged me, and you know sometimes we don't listen, but he had encouraged me to start a blog after the second miscarriage, and I did, and I kind of slacked off of it. And so I feel like doing, like, with our podcast and things, when this month came around, I was like, I know exactly what this one's gonna be about, because it needs to be spread. People need to talk about it. The people that are going through it need to hear about it. They may need to talk about it to somebody, but they don't know how.
Right.
It's okay. Like, find somebody that you trust and that you can confide in, and talk about it. And if you don't have anybody, talk to God about it. He's gonna listen to you. He's always there. You know.
So like what you just said, like, go and find somebody, right? So for the woman in that relationship, I know it's hard, you know, knowing you and hearing your story, you being my sister. Mm-hmm. For the man, like, for your husband, do you know, like, what he's gone through and, like, where he's gone to get him through it? And, you know, because I feel like for the man, it's his
emotions totally different than mine.
Right.
I mean, for our situation,
yeah,
we were totally different. So for me, it was like, okay, I started blaming myself, and I was like, okay, this is all me. Like, I'm the woman, I'm supposed to carry the baby. My husband wants, because he was like me. He would want a ton of children. Like, he would want a football team, okay?
Yeah.
So, I actually had the conversation with him, and I told him, I said, if I can't give you what you need for that, like, I understand if you don't want even this marriage anymore. I mean, that's to the point that it got to for me, that I was like,
wow,
in deep,
yeah,
like, blaming myself bad. And he looked at me, and he was like, don't you ever say something like that again. He was like, I married you, we're in this marriage together. And he always says that I kind of helped him get closer to God, because I was the first one to ask him, will you come to church with me?
Oh, wow.
So
I never knew that. Wow.
This marriage is something special to me. And he's like, I don't care if we would have had none. He was like, but at least we have Riker. And he was like, he said, I would never trade you off for anything. You know, he's like, don't you ever talk like that again.
That's how you know he loves you.
But his emotions were very different than mine. Like, I am a total mess whenever things happen like that. Like, I'm very emotional. I cry. Our whole family's like that.
Yeah, we are. It's so true.
My husband's not like that. He rarely cries. I think I seen him cry one time for his uncle's funeral, because they were close. I mean, he just doesn't show emotion like that. And each time, it was like a little teary-eyed, you know. I want to say the first time that it happened, he was more, like, kind of showed it a little bit more. But he always ran away, kind of thing, with him. Like, I think that he didn't want to upset me further.
Right.
So whenever he would feel like it was coming on, that because he was upset about it. He just didn't want to show me, because he didn't want me to be upset that he was so upset about it. He would cry by himself. I'm going to tell you that right now. He would cry by himself.
Like, something like that, because, like, I can kind of relate to how he did it, because if in the future I'd have a wife and the same thing would happen to us, I wouldn't want her to see me weak,
Right.
you know, because I can be her rock whenever something like this would happen.
Mm-hmm.
If I show weakness in that situation, she might fall apart even more than she already was.
Right.
You know.
What a special kind of love that it must be, though, to not want that person to feel like that.
Exactly.
That you know,
Right.
that you care that much.
Yeah.
And that's just how he was. Now, there's times where we have, like, we've prayed together. There's times where we have prayed apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just going through the different emotions of it all. But the whole time, we both were in it with God. Like, we never really let it stray. Except for the parts I feel like whenever I got like we would get angry and mad. And I'm sure I can't speak for him because he hasn't really expressed that side, but I'm sure that he's gotten a little angry with him too, like why us?
Mm-hmm.
But he's never really expressed that.
I don't think that being angry with God is necessarily turning away from him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's expressing to God, hey, I feel this way. I know what you're trying to do. I understand the whole thing, but I'm not comfortable.
Right.
And I need to be comfortable.
Right.
You know, it may express itself in anger and, you know, being upset.
Because being human, we have so many different emotions, expressions, and all this. So,
yeah.
And I think that I know that God understands each thing that we go through.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he knows us individually.
Yeah.
He probably knows how we're going to act before it even happens.
Oh, yeah.
You know? But,
So, I wanted to ask you, you know, after all the pregnancy loss and now having Riker, you know, now that you have your son and we know how he is, Lord, how do you feel when he's with you, being a mother to that child?
Oh my goodness. So actually this school year, we made a really tough decision because I was teaching last year and before that. But we had a really tough decision to make, and I prayed super hard about it. I'm like, God, please place me where you want me to be, because I just have this strong urge that, like, I need to be home with him. I need to be with him, with Riker. And it was placed in my heart that, yes, that is exactly where he wants me to be. But then my husband was kind of like, that wasn't really being placed on his heart. And so, which is really a cool story, because I had been praying super hard about it, and we kind of weren't on the same page about it, because he was afraid. Tyler was afraid. He was scared. And I'm like, you can't be scared. Like, if God's telling us to do something, we have to do it. Like, you cannot be afraid. I know that that's a human thing for us. Like, we get nervous, we get scared. Like, what if this? What if that?
Oh, yeah.
But we have to listen. Like, we have to listen. And so I prayed really hard, and I was like, God, please, like, somehow, if this is really what you want, then please just, like, place it on Tyler's heart then. Because I said, Holy Spirit, please come to him somehow and just let him know that if this is what you want, then please just let him know, you know. That afternoon, I get a phone call from him, and he's on his way home in his truck, and he's like, hey, don't sign those papers, no. And I'm like, what? And he's like, don't sign that contract. And I said, for school? And he's like, yeah, don't sign that contract. And I'm like, okay. I said, why? He's like, I don't know. There's something just telling me that we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. You're going to be able to be home. And I was like, wow. And so we get off the phone, and I'm like, oh, thank you, Holy Spirit, you know? Because I knew that's what God was asking. Yeah. And it has been truly the biggest blessing ever in my life. Like, I mean, Tyler can see it. I'm happier. Riker's happier. He's happier. Like, he sees us more because he's not coaching this year. And it's just been the most wonderful, beautiful thing. Like, Riker makes us so happy. We laugh all the time. We can be silly, goofy. He has the biggest personality. Like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. He is like, I mean, I thank God every single day for this beautiful blessing. Yeah. Like, he is just amazing.
And if anybody that follows your beauty page on Instagram, they would know, because they see his pictures.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that kid, man.
He's blowing up in personality, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and let me tell you, parents, like, for your children, pray for them, because that's the one thing that I make sure that I do. Like, I will ask God, make him wise, make him strong, give him courage, like, but also make him loving, kind, and caring, and help him to be obedient. Like, I ask for those things for him. So, like, always try to remember, like, when you do have kids, that to pray for those things for them, because we fall short of that sometimes. Like, we don't think about that.
Yeah.
And we need to be there to pray for them. We need to be there to be their teacher right now, to teach them about him. Because if we don't, then who will?
Right.
You know? So,
like, what are some things that you learned along the way, both with the loss and the life of a child?
oh my goodness. So much. I mean, with the life of a child, it has been, like I said, truly a blessing. And listen, it's not all rainbows and butterflies, because it's real life, okay? I mean, we have our days where it's like, okay, like, we're not being obedient. What's going on today? You know, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Normal. But it's just the most glorious, beautiful thing to be a parent. And to have, you know, going through loss. I really think that it, like I said, it has made us stronger in the end, to be honest. I feel like if somebody comes to me and wants to talk to me about that situation that they've been in, I feel like I'm able to talk to them about it. And I'm telling you, that's just God coming through me, because I don't think I couldn't do it by myself. I couldn't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
I know what you mean.
I mean, and I feel like he almost, like you said, used that to, like, help me to be able to help out somebody else that needs it.
I think that's a path that he's getting you to walk down now.
Right.
Is that, you know, you're going to help others that have gone through things like this.
I mean, we're going to try again. You know what I'm saying? It's not, we're not finished yet. God has so much more in store for our family. I know that. You know, so we just have to see where the journey ends.
So, other than God himself, because we all know that God is like the biggest thing to cope, you know, other than God himself, what things throughout this entire journey has helped you through, you know, the loss and now having a kid?
My husband, definitely, number one. And just people in our lives, even like mom,
right?
My in-laws, dad, y'all. Like, y'all have been there for us through it all.
Right.
Y'all know what we've been through. Y'all been there for us. And I will say, having people around me seeing it, like, even though that was something that really, like, hurt me at first, I'm able to say that I am so genuinely happy for somebody else that's experiencing life, bringing life into the world. Like, I don't know. It helped me. Like, it helps me to see that. And it helps me to have hope. And I think that there's a lot of people that's like that. You know, you may see somebody else experiencing that, and so it gives you hope to know that, like, that could be us.
Well,
you know?
That's one big thing that I learned throughout life, and I think it's on a different level with you because of everything that you've been through. But, like, whenever you throw happiness or hope out into the world, it bounces off the walls to other people.
That's right.
You know, if you can bring it out into the world, it's going to spread.
Right.
The same thing with negative attitudes and whatever you you know are going through. If you bring out negative's going to come back. If you put out positive's going to come back.
That's right. I believe that.
Yeah.
I do.
So, one more thing that I wanted to ask you is, if that was one sentence, one word, you know, one message that you could whisper into all the ears of the mothers that have lost or are going through a pregnancy currently, what would it be?
So, it's not going to be one word. It's going to be long. So, I would say, anyone who has experienced a loss of any kind, with a child or anything, just because you don't have the physical child on this earth, and I'm going to get emotional, but just because you don't have that physical child on this earth does not mean that you're not a mommy. And those beautiful little souls are watching over you and your family. And how beautiful that they're watching over you with your one true father. Wow. You know? So I just would like to leave it with that. Like, just remember that they're always there watching over you and with your one true father. And know that it's okay to not be okay. Just don't stay stuck in it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Marking Milestones podcast. Please follow us over on Instagram at Marking Milestones. And as always, leave your mark.